Now can we get a roll call?
Here.
Commissioner Seifert?
Here.
Commissioner White O'Neill? Here. Chair Dickerson?
Here. Okay, next on the item on the agenda is the approval of the Planning Commission minutes of January 25th, February 1st, and February 15th. If everybody's had a chance to take a look at them, does anybody have anything they need changed or comments about them? Otherwise, we need a motion for those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I think I had to abstain on one of them. There's three, right? I was absent on one.
Okay. Do we know which one?
I'm looking. Absent, Tim Seifert, February 1.
Okay. And the abstention for that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Public comments period. Each member of the audience may address the commission on any subject within the commission's business. Each member of the audience and each subject is limited to discussion of 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. These are for items not already on the agenda. Does the public want to hear themselves on anything not on the agenda? No? Then we will move on. Public hearings. 1, Boone Street Market General Plan Land Use Map and Zoning Map Amendment and a Downtown Specific Plan Amendment for 501 and 407 East Boone Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself. I have ownership interest in the 300-foot radius of this project.
Okay.
Since staff's actually requesting the item be removed, does the commissioner need to leave the room? Phil?
No.
Okay. So, staff...
Or if you just walked really slow, we probably could have dealt with it before you got out.
So, staff is requesting that by motion the commission remove this item from the agenda. We'll do a renotice because of some errors that we discovered on our part. It's not on the applicant's part. And so this would come back, be renoticed and scheduled for April 5th. Okay. But you don't need to put that into your motion, just take it off the calendar.
Okay. Can I hear a motion to take item number 1 off the calendar?
So moved.
Second?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? Okay. Item number 2, Verizon Plan Development Permit at 1001 East Donovan Road. Can we hear from staff?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Verizon proposes a wireless telecommunication facility located on an existing utility power pole within the East Donovan Road right-of-way. The parkway is adjacent to the Shortstop Mini Market site at the northeast corner of East Donovan Road and Carlotti Drive. The proposed project is a small cell to telecommunications facility consisting of ground-mounted equipment cabinets located in an existing parkway between the sidewalk and curb, and small equipment antennas mounted to the existing wooden PG&E pole. So on the left-hand side, you see what the current situation looks like, and on the left is what is proposed by Verizon. As you can see, the antenna, which is called a cantenna, is mounted on top of the utility pole. There's various parts of equipment that are mounted to the pole itself, and then electrical connections and so forth mounted in the ground-mounted utility boxes. And as you can see, the equipment is painted to match the wooden pole and tan to just blend in with the surroundings. A site visit I did recently, there's another set of utility boxes closer to the corner that have a similar color to these, so it'll all blend in. And as with prior applications of this type, staff considers this kind of telecommunication site where an existing utility pole is modified to be preferable to a new standalone pole and antenna. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission by motion approve this plan development permit. I do have one last change to conditions on the request of the applicant. Condition number 8 talks about the ongoing maintenance of the site, and specifically the second sentence dealing with graffiti They wanted a more definite time frame, and the 72 hours is definitely something that both planning and code compliance can accept.
Any questions of staff? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Holly, I have a question with respect to site triangle. Does that apply to those utility boxes higher than 36 inches?
Commissioner and Commission, the site distance requirement, site distance triangle would play into this, leaving for driveways. We do have a different standard for driveways as opposed to actual intersection corners. So it would apply anything above 36 inches, to 7 feet would need to be in the clear zone. However, with this pole in this location and our standards for a 10-foot site distance triangle, it should be clear to function well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question, Chair.
Sir.
Thank you. Is that really a 40-foot pole? It doesn't look to be 40-foot. I don't know. I didn't go out and measure it.
I did not measure it myself either. I just relied on the plans that the applicant provided.
It's really hard to tell distance, but it certainly didn't look like it was 40 feet off the ground. Apparently, maybe it is.
I could just have the applicant reconfirm that height through the building permit process so we make sure that it doesn't.
It was just a question. I looked at all the other poles. There's quite a bit of high transmission lines that go through there. This particular one more thing on the pole, it really doesn't bother me. It seemed like the 40-foot, because I know we have height limitations on certain structures. It didn't seem like we're that tall on this particular pole, but I could very well be wrong. Thank you.
Ms. White O'Neill?
I assume the mini mart has been informed and all this information and they're prepared for whatever
They would have.
impediment might happen while the installation's going on.
They would have been contacted as part of the property owner notice. But I can ask that Verizon make sure they're informed about when the construction will take place and so forth.
And do we have an approximate, I know they've done a number of these, how many days does it typically take for them to install?
That would be something that I'll defer to the applicant. Thank you.
Further questions? Why don't we hear from the applicant? That sounds wonderful. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Tricia Knight, representing Verizon Wireless, 123 Seacliff Drive, Pismo Beach. So as the 300-foot radius, they would have been notified, but we can definitely put that in the record that we would want to converse with them prior to construction, let them know we're going to have a small staging area. The construction period is about 2 weeks overall, and that's including off-street work with the trenching of utilities. And so on and so forth. This is considered a small cell capacity type site versus the larger projects that have come before you, the faux trees, and sort of that's the coverage. This is to more improve the data speeds and also E911. So that's sort of what this is tailored to do. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
I do. How many sites do you guys have in this city that are similar to this?
Similar to the small cells? Right now, I believe within the city limits, I think we're going on around between 10-ish, around there. This is the new technology, however. I definitely want the commission to be aware of that. You're going to see a lot more of these as we all use our devices so much more. And it's not just making that call and keeping that call, it's being able to get those data speeds that we use for work and home and our kids and all of those things. So Verizon's just trying to stay on top of it. You're going to see more of these from other carriers as well. So just as long as they're well designed and well placed, I think it's a good solution. It's a utility on a utility, so yeah.
I do have a question.
I have one more question. Do you guys have any vaults you guys can use as opposed to above ground?
It's not ideal just for maintenance and leaks. That's the only, yes, we can. That is something that Verizon has done minimally in the past and also other carriers in the past, but the leakage problems that we have during extreme rain events like we just had, and being able to seal them. And then also there's already lots of infrastructure usually directly below these utility poles. And so oftentimes there's just not room. These vaults are very large in order to try to get the equipment and everything below grade. And then there's also ventilation pipes above ground. So that often impedes traffic. So those two things just don't really help with the situation. And so that's why you'll see some located on the pole and some in the right of way.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Seifert?
Thank you. This particular device, I mean, we're used to the big trees or the fake, stuff. Is this going to be able to take the place of quite a few of those, or is this just a different system?
It's a different system in the way that you have coverage and capacity. So coverage is where we used to locate on the hilltops above the city, and we'd come in over from far away, and that's how we would be able to hold a call and keep a call. Now that we are trying to, it's almost like lanes on a highway is the metaphor I use. Right now it's clogged because we're all using so much of our devices all the time. And so this basically adds another lane. So in this immediate area, which you have businesses, people in their cars, people inside their businesses using their devices, this is going to help them. Number one. Number two, what's even more important is that when a true emergency was to happen, those bigger sites, those trees that you've approved, those other things that are sort of on the outskirts of the city are going to get overwhelmed immediately. This is going to offload that traffic so that people in this immediate vicinity can still use their phones, especially texting, which in an emergency is going to be key. So,
Thank you.
Hope that answers your question.
Further questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any written communications? No? All right. Well, then we will bring that back to the commission, I guess, at this point. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? Okay, we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one point.
Yes, sir.
If the motion could include the revised language on the screen, that'd be appreciated.
I'll move that we approve Plan Development Permit PD 2017-004 with amended text to section number 8 of ongoing site maintenance.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 3, the 2016, scintillating. The 2016 General Plan Annual Report. Frank, it is all yours. Make it as sexy as you can.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. This is the General Plan Annual Report, which is prepared each year to provide residents and the decision makers in the city with a summary of the prior year's activities. Some of the things included are the number of amendments to the General Plan and Zoning Code, the number of discretionary permits and building permits received and approved, and the progress towards meeting the city's housing goals or the regional housing needs allotment. Once accepted by the City Council, the report is forwarded to the state and combined with the reports from other jurisdictions to create a statewide database of housing and development information. Staff recommends the Planning Commission by motion forward the General Plan Annual Report to the City Council, and the City Council is tentatively scheduled to receive this at their April 4th meeting. I'm available for any questions.
Any at all. All right. Thank you very much. Do we have questions? That's it. Would you like the whole thing read into the minutes? Kathleen, I'm going to... No?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I do have one question. I know this has to deal with our housing needs and assessment. How does SB 1069 fall into this? That was something that came online January 1st? Or does that not affect our city? Yeah.
We are still looking into how that applies, and any unit added as part of that would be put into these, into future reports. It would just be another source of units being added.
But is that something that could affect the municipal code as well? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And is it something that has to be adopted by the city council, or is it automatic?
Our understanding is that we would need to amend our ordinance, and we're still looking into the appropriate way to do that.
Okay.
And so amending the ordinance, it would come to the Planning Commission because this part is part of the zoning ordinance, and the commission would make a recommendation up to council.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further questions?
I
Mr.
think
Seifert?
I think they spelled conditional wrong. Page 3. There's a... Is it right or wrong?
Where are you talking about?
COD.
It's chart 2-1, the center set of bars, the word conditional is incorrectly spelled.
Glad I could be of help.
I like you always put a little seed out there, something that one of us can glom on to. That's good. So we're still doing our job. Yes, absolutely.
Just to clarify. Just want to make sure I understood. So for the regional housing needs allocation, we're talking about permitted, meaning occupancy permits, structures that are up and people are living in, not like the Housing Authority project that we approved on Depot Street. That's not part of this yet because it hasn't been built.
These would be permits issued during the 2016 year.
Did we not do that in 2016, that the Housing Authority?
That particular project didn't, got its planning commission approval, but
Hasn't received its
it's still
permit?
going through the building permit
Got
process.
it, got it.
Other questions? No? Okay. You sure?
I was just gonna, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does Santa Barbara still not meet their arena housing numbers? Is that, I remember Santa Barbara for the longest time, city of Santa Barbara would never
I mean,
come close.
I mean, how could
in
they?
general,
How could they?
one of the aspects of housing element law and RENA is the state doesn't require you to build them because a city can't
Right.
build units. The state requires you to have policies and another land zoned so that it could be built. But then you do add in the political realities of each community of whether a project proposed, whether it meets the zoning, how quickly does it get through, and so on and so forth. So for every community that has a process that's pretty streamlined and quick, there are going to be a handful that take a long time to act on things. So.
Thank you. Quite diplomatically put. Yes, sir?
Chair, didn't you have something to do with the TBRA?
I did.
I believe you came up with that program, didn't you?
I did indeed. As a matter of fact, I did.
I know,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. It's a great program.
It's very nice of you. Thank you. Okay, is there any written communication or slips from anybody in the audience? Nobody wants to talk about this? No? This would be right up your alley. No? All right. Okay, then I will bring it back to the commission, and we need a motion.
I move that we recommend City Council receive this report at their April 5th meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
April 4th meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving on to number 4, report on city council actions.
I don't have any reports on any city council actions.
All right. Number 5, oral reports from planning commissioners and staff.
I believe I already stated before the meeting started that we do not have a study session tomorrow. Then we do have a hearing on April 5th and a study session on April 6th. But at this point, the second meeting of April on the 19th is canceled, and the study session that week is also canceled. So no hearing on the 19th of April, no study session on the 20th of April.
Okay. Great. Commissioner White O'Neill.
I just had I'm not sure if it's relevant to the, well, it is sort of relevant to this, and maybe, Mr. Cinco, this is for you, but just with regard to the city's move to district-based elections, do we have a sense of how that's going to affect appointments to these kinds of commissions? Will the city council person from each district then have to appoint someone from their district to be their representative on the various councils, or do you have any sense of how that's going to go?
Chair Dickerson, members of the commission, Commissioner O'Neill, we haven't gotten anywhere close to thinking in that level of detail. I would say the law does not require and is silent on appointees and where they're from. So the law only requires that elected positions be district-based and not necessarily appointees. Of course, somebody who's from a district may want to appoint someone from their district, may catch heat if they don't, but I don't believe it would be a requirement.
So for those of us who are following this and being active in the discussions, it's probably a question we should bring to the forefront.
Just or wait and see. It's something that is not pertinent to the actions that are being taken by the council prior to the adoption of the voting districts.
Okay, thank you.
Other things? Okay, I actually have one item, and that is that our last study session, or maybe it was the study session prior to that, I had brought up that I have been bringing up for a while the mobile billboards. And then we were going to discuss them at our next study session. I asked Mr. Cinco about that, and he's put that squarely on your doorstep. So,
Yes,
welcome to the bottom
Yes.
side of a bus.
Yes, I mean, our division does handle the scheduling. I would ask the question for April 6th. Would we be prepared to have that discussion on the mobile billboards?
Questionable. We can certainly have the discussion how far along I'll be at that point, because I'm going to be, it just so happens I'll be gone on out of the office for 6 days during that time period, from the 22nd of March until March 30th. And I have quite a bit to accomplish before the 21st. So I can't promise that I'll have an exhaustive answer to some of the thornier questions that are going to be, that might come up during that discussion. But I do have some familiarity with it already and would be able to at least respond at a basic level.
Would you have answers to the thorny questions if we push this off to the first study session in May, since we're not doing the second study session in April?
Yes, because I believe that will be about mid-May.
Okay, so you
So we
would
would
have
have-
a
yes.
completed full picture of the thing at that
Yes.
time?
I not to even promise, but I might even have an ordinance for a draft ordinance for review by that
Okay.
point.
Okay, I would be satisfied with that if you can schedule it for that period of time then. Ms. White O'Neill?
Could you just briefly define what you're talking about with mobile billboards? I know you've talked about it before.
Sure.
I'm not sure I'm
Sure.
clear on it.
Driving around our streets are these trucks that sole purpose are to advertise typically insurance companies and trailers.
That are towing like a
Some
sign?
of them are towing them, some of them are, that's part of the flatbed.
Those I've seen. I can't think.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
as the evening progresses, they flip on their lights and they are big neon billboards that wander our streets.
Okay.
And then when they're not being driven, then they're being parked at various
Sure, yeah.
places just for the fun of it.
And there frequently they're sort of novelty trucks, novelty
I think
sort
frequently they're insurance they're the local insurance
Are you talking about one that's parked near our neighborhood, on our street?
Sometimes.
Yeah, okay. That's,
Sometimes.
okay. Okay, I got
And
it.
then, or up at Osh, I think they
yep,
park
I got
there.
it.
You got it?
Okay.
There you are. Okay, so there we are. That was my thing. Anything else?
I have something.
Yes, sir.
I think this afternoon it was announced that 2 local high school students have been
Oh, I
accepted
saw
to
that.
Harvard.
I saw
Ah,
that.
nice.
Which
Yeah.
is very cool. I think 2 of 2,000 worldwide.
Wow.
I think one's from Pioneer and one's from Santa Maria High.
I didn't read the details, but
I
yeah.
thought it was pretty
Imagine we
cool.
got 2 of them. That's,
Yeah.
that's
Very cool.
wow. That's nice. All right. Well, so that's it. You're the good news guy.
Well, actually, on that vein, I'll share good news,
Okay.
too. So I've been a volunteer interviewer for the Scholarship Foundation for years, and so this is the season to do scholarship interviews for high school seniors. And again, we really have some wonderful kids doing wonderful things and going to wonderful schools, and so very proud to be part of it. I encourage any of you who are thinking about doing something like that. It's a very rewarding experience.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, if this is the good
All right,
time
there we
news,
go.
I have some good news.
I'm feeling all warm and glowy.
Might as well. I've had a very difficult project that I'm a contractor, and I've been working diligently with the city for about a year now, and this last couple of weeks, I believe that every department in the city has bent over backwards to help us get this thing through. And it was an amazing process. It's a very difficult process, but without the help of some of the people in this room and the other people in their offices, it was an amazing process. It was very difficult, and I got to say that the city really went out of their way to help us.
Oh, that's always nice to hear. Very nice. All right. Is that it, folks? I'm going to have the final piece of good news, and that is that this meeting is adjourned.